Is suicide selfish?
God ain't say that.
No.
You're selfish for doing that. I don't.
Yes and no.
You take your own life? Why?
I know I'm gonna die on this sidewalk.
I've never really understood the premise behind the belief that suicide is selfish. It's always seemed obvious to me that if someone's in enough distress to reject their physiologic will to live, then the merciful thing to do would be to allow them to end their suffering. I know so many people whose pet dog had some chronic illness, and what do? They bring them to the vet to get put down. They don't want Fluffy to have to live in pain anymore, so they euthanize them. It's socially acceptable to kill a living being that's been a part of our lives for years out of genuine compassion and mercy for their suffering. Why aren't we showing the same mercy for people? Is suicide selfish?
Yes and no. I think that it can be viewed as a wonderful alternative to extreme pain and suffering. I've lived in Europe for the better part of a decade, and in Belgium you can get it for mental suffering that is extreme. Do I think it's selfish? Yes, because it hurts people you leave behind.
Because I feel like when that happens, or when you get to feel that way, or you get so depressed and down on yourself, I feel like there could be maybe like a chemical imbalance in your mind, or something could be put in your head. I mean, just all the things that are on TV and on your phone and everything else. People don't realize it, but those things actually can, in a sense, brainwash a person.
I don't think that suicide is this isolated event of like you're selfish for doing that. I don't think that that's. So I guess in essence, no. It's something you do by yourself. You know, like everybody dies by themselves. But getting to that point, it's not like this thing where you're. Yeah, it's complicated. Yeah.
Do you think that suicide is selfish?
Yeah. You take your own life? Why? God ain't say that. Yeah, suicide right here. Right there.
We can respect when someone with cancer chooses to stop treatment, even though it's basically suicide. We have empathy for their situation and understand that they don't want to live in pain anymore. But when someone with depression also chooses to stop treatment and take their own life, we no longer have that respect or that empathy. We're no longer compassionate, but outraged. But in the same way that cancer kills patients, depression does too. We keep labeling suicide as selfish as if these people chose to have a chronic illness. The cancer patient didn't want the tumor, and the depression patient didn't want the constant fantasy of their own death. Neither of them really wanted to die this way, but this is their reality now. They're being faced with two miserable options: fight for life and live in constant pain, or die now. Neither of those are ideal. I'm not saying that suicide is the right thing to do. I'm not trying to promote it in any way. I'm just trying to expose the discrepancies in our thought process. We have sympathy for deaths caused by physical illness, but resentment for deaths caused by mental illness. But both are debilitating, and neither of them are a choice. Do you think that assisted suicide should be legal?
Assisted suicide? DM.
Assisted suicide.
I'm old school, so I would say yes, just because, I mean, I've seen somebody suffer on their way out, and it's not a pretty sight, so I feel like it should be a person's choice.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think, yeah, people have to know what they're doing. But I think that if you're in a point where you have decided that you would like to end your life because you're living with daily pain in your body, and you feel, in like one example, like, okay, my grandchildren are grown, I feel ready. I think that, you know, if that is meaningful to you, you know, that's okay.
Of course.
You do think so?
Completely.
You think for all circumstances, or do you think there should be some protocol for it?
I think there should be extreme protocol the way there is in Europe. I do not necessarily agree for mental suffering. I do believe if you have, let's say, a life-changing ailment. I have Meniere's disease, so I went deaf in the span of about 2 years, and occasionally I have to walk with a cane, and when that was happening, I wanted to die. Now, if it had been on the grounds of mental pain and suffering, I could have done it if I'd been a Belgian citizen. That was luckily not the case for me, and I'm saying luckily for me because now I love life. Do I still struggle with depression? Yes.
Well, I mean, it depending on the situation, I guess, but like if I was the guy in charge, like it was like Green Mile or some shit, I don't think I could pull the trigger. That's all I'm saying, but I know what it's like to be like really sad and stuff. I mean, I've tried before or whatever, you know. That's a really hard question.
If I tried to kill myself, the last thing I would want is to blow my brains out with a hollow point and be left as a paralyzed vegetable. Assisted suicide would eliminate the risk of failure and permanent disability. I mean, goddamn, if someone's gonna kill themselves, can we not at least give them the option to do it in a quiet room in a physically painless way? It's hard to say that there's freedom anywhere that assisted suicide isn't legal. If we truly have the freedom to do what we want with our lives, then that means that we should have the freedom to end it as well.